Oh, wasn't that awesome to hear? Just how a simple friendship between two people can have such a profound effect on their lives. And, the last year and a half to 2 years has been so weird for relationships. We've been isolated, we've been forced to communicate online. But we've also, some people have reforged relationships, reshaped them. And really, relationships are amongst the most important formative forces that we have in our lives. And, throughout this summer, we are listening to people's stories like Nigel and Ruth's. And we are also looking at how to tell a better story with our own lives. And, our stories are, about the cast. They're about the ensemble that we are part of. And, that stuff really, really matters. And actually, as over the last kind of few weeks, as we've been looking more into story structure and listening to actors and actresses and directors talk about their craft, one thing that keeps coming up time and time again, which I find really fascinating, is just the amount of effort that goes into casting. So we were watching the Friends reunion, and they were talking about the fact that they cast two of the members of Friends really early on, but then they were really struggling to find the right people for the other roles, and they were ready to give up on it. And then we watched, for the first time, we're watching some 80s and 90s classic films at the moment. We watched Primal Fear the other day. And we always go on to IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, afterwards and look up trivia about the film afterwards if we've enjoyed it. We enjoyed this one, so we looked it up, found out it was Edward Norton's first role, his first big role in cinema. And that before they cast him, they actually had auditions for over 2,000 actors before they found the right one. And then again, watching an interview just last night with John Krasinski, who played Jim, one of the main characters in the American version of The Office. And, as he was telling his story, he was getting cast right at the end of a process where they'd had a whole round of casting and couldn't find the right Jim. And I'd never appreciated just how much weight that people in theatre and in cinema put on casting. It seems to be the one job that they put the most care and attention to detail into. So you might think it would go into the special effects or the cameras that they use or the budget or the marketing or whatever. It's not. It's making sure that the right people are in this. And there's a lesson too for that in us, in how we live our own stories. Who is it that we are affected by and who is it that's around us? So if we take this into the story of our lives, the moment when we found out just how important it was, who it was that was around us in our life, was when we were going through our period of multiple miscarriages, and we're going through just this incredible trauma and grief, and it was really, really hard. And it was during this time that we found out about this kind of model of relationships. It's like this ripple effect, whereby the people who are closest to a trauma, something really difficult, are the ones who get affected most by it. And then as they get further and further from it, they get less and less affected by it. And that means that the people who are closest to the trauma are also the ones who should be supporting you the most. So we were right in the middle of this trauma. And so we needed really close friends who were supporting us. And it was during that time that we really discovered who our close friends were. And actually, we forged some of our lives' greatest and strongest friendships in that time. But what we also discovered was those people who were giving a lot to us but not receiving anything in return, because we were in no position to give at that time, needed people who were giving to them and supporting them. And so it goes in life that we all need people who are supporting us in order that we can be strengthened to live our lives and support other people. So in our lives, we will have people who we are supporting and loving and we give a lot to. And then we'll have other people who give a lot to us. And in a really strong friendship, a good friendship, there will be a lot of back and forth where we support one another. And it is properly right that there are some people in our lives that we are giving to. So if you've got a senior role in an organization, it is right that you are giving to those who are beneath you. Or if you are a parent It is right that you are giving a lot to your children and not necessarily getting a lot in return. That's kind of how it works. Doubly so if that child is a baby or a toddler who doesn't yet know how to give back. But it shouldn't be that way in friendships. Friendships should be a two-way street, mutual support and mutual upholding. And then there is the power of relationships to change who we are as people. Now, we covered this in previous weeks, but there's a bit of a famous saying that you are the average of the 5 people closest to you. Now, that's not scientific, but there have been various studies done on that effect, and they found that you're not just the average of the people who are closest to you, but also you are massively affected by friends of friends. That's how connected we are as human beings, that a change in the life of someone who is a friend of your friend, even if you don't know them, will affect how you live. We are community beings, and the effects of the people who are closest to us are profound. And if you look around, the people around you, are they people you want to become like? Because you are becoming like them, whether you like that or not. And this is something that even the Bible talks about. So I'm going to hit you with 3 bits of wisdom from Proverbs. These come from Proverbs 12, 13, and 18. So the first one, the righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. So this is straight from the Bible, advising what it is we're talking about today. Choose your friends carefully, because if you choose badly, your life will go in a bad direction. Or how about this one? Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So if you have friends with wise people, then you yourself will become wise and you will make good decisions. And the reverse is also true. Or how about this one? One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother, which is what we've just been talking about. What you want from a friend is someone who is reliable, who is there when it's good and when it's harm, and when it's hard. And actually, a good friend is even more reliable than a blood relative. So if we put all of that together, we come up with the fact that all relationships, but especially our most intimate relationships, our closest friendships, affect our strength, our ability to get through the day, our joy, our happiness, and who it is that we are becoming. And so, as the Bible itself says, it's worth giving that some thought. And whenever I bring up this idea with people, they don't like it. They don't think it sounds very Christian. They think, that's not the kind of thing that Jesus would do. Surely it's very exclusive. It doesn't seem fair or right. But one of the things that I find, one of the moments in Jesus' life that I find endlessly fascinating, and when we get to heaven, people say, I'm going to ask God about this or that or the other, and it's usually to do with creation or dinosaurs or something like that, or why there's their suffering or those kind of things. For me, my number one question for Jesus when I get to see him face to face is, why did you pick those 12? His 12 disciples, on the face of it, seemed so random and an odd bunch to choose, but we know he was incredibly careful about that decision. When he came to the moment of choosing the 12, his inner circle, those who would be closest to him, he'd spent a good amount of time with a larger group of people, seeing them in conversation, seeing them at leisure, seeing them at work. He'd given them tasks to do to see how they could do it. And then he went up a mountain and spent a night in prayer, came down that mountain in the morning and chose the 12. So for whatever reason he had for picking that inner circle, he gave it a lot of thought. And then another example of Jesus excluding someone on this basis is the rich young ruler. This guy comes to him, he has everything, he has wealth, he's got ability, he's got connections, he's like the perfect person you would want in your church. But Jesus says to him, first go and sell everything you have and then come and follow me. And this rich young ruler isn't up to that. And he walks away sad. And we're told that that makes Jesus sad too. And so Jesus was not about to compromise what his discipleship was about, what his inner circle was about. He wasn't going to say, well, this guy's got a lot going for him, he's got a bit of a, he's a bit obsessed with money, but it's okay. We're going to overlook that. It's a long journey. He might find his way through to, he said, no, I'm not going to compromise what I'm doing here and what I'm about. I'm not going to let someone who loves money more than God into this inner circle. And so when Jesus comes to teach us about how we can leverage these relational dynamics ourselves to live a better life, I think there's no better place to look than John 15, a famous teaching of Jesus called the vine and the branches. And I've actually spent a lot of time in prayer through this passage over time. It's a really great one. There's an awful lot of stuff in it, but we're going to look at it through the angle of friendship and friendship with Jesus. So it's John 15, and we're going to start at verse 12. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that they lay down their lives for their friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know their master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything that I learnt from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. Then the Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. This is my command: love each other. So when we're looking at our relational world, the cast of the story of our lives, who it is, who is around us, and who's in the inner circle, who's not in the inner circle, what we're talking about is love. And Jesus wants us to know that the foundation of our relationship with him and everything he does for us is in love. So if we go back to, our story of when we were going through a trauma and a lot of experience of pain and grief, it was those who were there for us, who practically loved us, who became our inner circle. The friendship, the foundation of that friendship was love, not just sentiment, but people who were actually there, people who actually did things, people who actually helped us, not just those who said the right words, but those who were physically present and those who helped us. And Jesus wants to know that anything he does for us, everything that he calls us to, comes out of this place of love. And his first commandment is to love God and to love our neighbor, whoever it is that may be around us. But that doesn't mean a kind of generic loving all people hippie kind of style way. So if we read verse 14, where it says, you are my friends if you do what I command. This is one of those teachings of Jesus, again, that really throws people, because that doesn't sound like friendship to our ears. You're only my friend if you do what I tell you to do. That sounds like a terrible friendship. But what Jesus is doing here is connecting our belonging and our behavior. What I've been talking about all along, that our friends, our closest relationships determine how we live, for good or for bad, whether we want that to happen or not. Because we're such relational creatures, we will take on the behavior of those who we are closest to. So Jesus has started off by saying, my love for you is secure and certain. You can be guaranteed of that. Then he invites us to, in his language, abide in him. And abide means to live in, to spend your time in, to give your thought to have your main focus on. And in his case, it is him, it is Jesus. And then if we are doing that, what will happen is we will become like Jesus. It's the thing we say all the time at Storyhouse: to be with Jesus, become like Jesus, and do what Jesus did. Those things are inseparable, and you can see it so clearly in this teaching of Jesus himself here, that if we abide in Jesus, we live in Jesus, we spend time with him, then we are going to become like him and do the kind of things that he did. We will, in his language, obey his commands. So Jesus opens the door to his house, says, come and live here. It says, and then by obeying his commands, what we're doing is we're staying in that house. There's a kind of Christianity, which is a bit of an imitation Christianity, that says you just have to make a decision once for Jesus and then he's got you, and essentially has no other instructions for the rest of your life. But Jesus is like, welcome into this new way of living And I would like you to stay in this new way of living as well. Like, eternal life is something that begins right now. It is a quality of life and not just a length of life. And Jesus, before all of our other friendships, invites us into friendship with him so that we would become close to him, spend lots of time with him, become like him, and end up doing the kinds of things that he would do had he had our life. And so a friendship with Jesus will start to redefine all the other relationships, because you will start to behave in a certain way. You become part of that inner circle of Jesus, one of his called disciples. And that's one of the things he says here, is not, this wasn't our choice. This was his choice. He called us into his inner circle of disciples. Our place there is secure. So he recommends that we stay there by abiding in him, by doing the kinds of things that he asks us to do. And we know we can trust Jesus because in two different ways in this passage, he shows how Jesus holds nothing back from us. You know, another essential part of friendship, along with love, is also trust. So Jesus assures us that everything he does for us and all he calls us to do comes from a place of love. But he also shows that he has trusted us and invites us to trust him in two ways. One, he says that greater love has no one than to give their life to their friends. Literally, that is the giving of everything. Once you have given your life up, you've held nothing back. You know, if we're kind of just getting to know each other, I might lend you a DVD or something like that. You know, I'm going to trust you with a little bit. I'm just going to give you a little bit of myself. As we become closer friends, I'm going to trust you with things that are a bit more precious to me. And Jesus says, when it comes to what I have, I've held nothing back because I gave my life to you. This moment on the cross where he died for us was just not just this one off moment, but a one-off moment that shows that Jesus is holding nothing back from us. He has given everything he has to us. And then the other way that he's holding nothing back from us is he says, I no longer call you servants, I call you friends. And what he's saying is a servant, someone who works for someone else, just has to do what they have to do because they're employed. So, you know, if Jesus had said, you know, you remain in my love by obeying my commands, the way that an employer would talk to an employee, that would be in the way that says, well, you just have to do it. That's the way things are. I said so you had to do it. He said, I don't treat you like that. I treat you like friends. I've let you in on the decision making, in on what my thoughts are, in on what's actually going on behind the scenes. And so this element of trust, which is just the foundation of friendship, Jesus is saying, I have trusted you with my life, and I have trusted you with the inner secrets. You know, I'll let you know why it is I'm doing what I'm doing, what's going on. I'm not just telling you what to do, but I'm letting you in on the family business. And so Jesus has this inner circle that he has called us to, and he's held nothing back, and he has called us friends. He's held nothing back in terms of his life. He's held nothing back in terms of information. He's shared his whole life with us. But that doesn't make this a cozy club or an exclusive circle, because he says, I've also appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last, eternal fruit. In every one of the Gospels, Jesus commands his disciples to go and make more disciples. The movement of Jesus is outward focused. And Jesus himself got the insult of being called a friend of sinners because he was always at parties and dinners and hanging out with people he wasn't meant to be hanging out with. And from everything we've said so far, it might sound like Jesus is quite exclusivist and he just has this little inner circle. But when an inner circle is healthy, it becomes outward looking. It welcomes a great deal more people to the party. And so it was with Jesus throughout the Gospels, the history of the life of Jesus. We find he doesn't just have this inner circle, but that this inner circle has always got a great big crowd around it. It's always these people who want to meet with Jesus and be with Jesus. And what happens is some of these people in the crowd end up joining that inner circle. And so it is that Jesus is calling us to carry on that way of life, to cultivate a healthy inner circle. Don't trust absolutely everyone. Don't let unhealthy people into the most intimate part of your lives. That part of your life needs to be fostered and taken care of. You know, Jesus had 12, but he also had the 3. Jesus had a group of closest friends, and then a group of close friends, and then acquaintances, and then this crowd around him. That isn't wrong. That's just how human beings work. We're just the way we are wired. We can only have a few very intimate relationships, and then we can have another circle outside of that, of close relationships. And those relationships with Jesus right at the center are the ones that are meant to be fostered and healthy and have good people around you that you admire and you want to become like. But once that inner circle is healthy, and if it's healthy, it won't be inward focused, but it would be hospitable. It will welcome the stranger. It will love enemies even. It will love strangers. It will welcome people in. It will sit with people and make sure, and we find this time again, it's just a rule of being human. When human beings are healthy and when relationships are healthy, they are undefended and they are welcoming and they are warm and they are loving. It's only unhealthy relationships and unhealthy people that are exclusivist and keep people out and are defensive. And when we have Jesus at the center of our life, when he is our primary friendship, what he promises us is that we will have joy. Joy or happiness is not something that we can pursue in its own right. It is a byproduct of the right conditions. When we are in the right place, with the right friendships, the right people around us, when things are going well, then we're joyful, then we're happy. And Jesus is inviting us into that kind of life so that we will be joyful. And in that joy, we will welcome more and more people to come join this inner circle, this friendship with Jesus. So if all of our relationships, but especially our most intimate relationships, affect how we are able to get through life, our joy, and most importantly, who it is we are becoming, make Jesus your primary friendship. Foster good, intimate relationships. And as you do so, become like Jesus, become hospitable, welcome people to the party, love not just your friends, but strangers and even enemies. And so be like Jesus.